Dzień dobry.
Good morning. Very warm welcome to all of you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the session dedicated to the Polish experience of the newly established social rental agencies. In the first place, I would like to thank very warmly Katarzyna Przybylska, Advocacy Director for Habitat. She invited me to moderate the session. I also wish to thank Karolina Więckiewicz, who is the chief organizer of our today's event from Habitat, and she invited me as well. As for Katarzyna, she was termed Kasia and referred to as Kasia yesterday, but she's the same person. She's the director of the foundation. And now about our panel. Our panel will start with a few words of introduction, and then I will invite all of our panelists to present their way, their road towards the social rental agency. I will invite you to tell us about your vision and mission and to share your experiences as for pros and cons of running social rental agencies here and now in Poland in the present condition of the country. And let me now invite our panelists who will participate in the panel. We have Bożena Borowiec, Deputy Mayor of Dąbrowa Górnicza, Piotr Krasucki, who is with us on behalf of the Ministry of Funds and Regional Policy, Sylwia Matejek-Gnacińska, Michael Angel Foundation, Żyrardów, Tomasz Sielicki, Mayor of Świebodzin, and Joanna Suska, Mayor of Ćmielów. Ladies and gentlemen, what we see right now is a very interesting period in time where, as we are talking, new social rental agencies are being established, and I do hope that this session will not focus so heavily on expectations, problems, and challenges, and will not only refer to the history of the whole process, how conducive climate was created in Poland to set up social rental agencies, and how legislative framework was laid down, because we are well past this stage. And let us now focus on implementation. Even if this is still the process in the making, I want to speak about implementation. Let me refer briefly to the previous session. I was greatly impressed by our colleagues from Prague and Budapest and their road towards social rental agencies. I think they have covered very much the same road, the same way as we. And this is all established in close cooperation with NGOs. And I think that the numbers speak volumes. 49 apartments is not a small figure. We in Poland, we are also a society with low social capital, with very limited social capital, and social rental agencies, of course, require the capital of trust between many stakeholders. And sometimes various stakeholders in the system have various goals, various needs, and various purposes. So cooperation, which is the very foundation for the project of social rental agencies, well, cooperation is a must. We have legal framework, but it is openness to cooperation that is absolutely necessary. And this makes this program different from any other preceding programs in Poland. Additionally, we are confronted with a situation where two advisory or advocacy projects are running up. I mean the pilot program Mutually Needed, Wzajemnie Potrzebni, were based on the assignment from the Chancellery of Prime Minister of Poland. A new project was created to assist organizations, social rental agencies, as they are set up, to the end of social cohesion, building social cohesion. And we have 5 such agencies, and we have also advocacy for social vision run by Habitat under the auspices of UNHCR High Commissioner, and here municipalities who decided to take part in the program, who were selected for the program, may count on financial support and very strong advisory and advocacy support as they prepare the new social rental agencies. And next to that, we have 3 cities and towns with advanced programs: Warsaw, Poznań, and Sopot. Poznań noteworthy because beforehand they had the municipal rental office or agency, local government-based agency functioning as social rental agency would, and they represent a lot of experience. Likewise, the project for social rental run by Habitat in Warsaw. The project, which managed to pull up even more than 49 apartments. And in a moment, we will be presented with more ins and outs and details about the implementation of those projects, because we have quite numerous takeaways and experiences gathered until now. And we also have Piotr Krasuski on behalf of the Ministry of Funds and Regional Policy. And this is the ministry that is the key stakeholder here. They are promising new funds to us. So this is going to be good news. But before we hand it over to Piotr from the ministry, let me give the floor to local governments. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good day to you. Thank you for this announcement. And now the question was, what were our individual experiences with setting up social rental agencies? I'm probably the only panelist who will be excluded from such an experience. So myself and the Ministry of Funds and Regional Policy will not be able and will have no capacity, including legal capacity, to set up social rental agencies. However, what we can do is provide funding. We coordinate the disbursement of EU funds. This year, we are working under the new financial perspective 21-27, and one of the funds is the European Social Fund Plus. It has been now called Social Fund Plus, as it now has available more sources of funding. And traditionally, the European Social Fund, ever since 2004, has been sponsoring soft projects like social inclusion, prevention, poverty, and exclusion, healthcare. And in the 4th financial perspective, where we benefit the funds from the European Social Fund, I can see that our experience would show that vulnerable persons have not yet benefited from all potential aids and support means because of housing problem. The housing problem is in the very center. If we want to give people chances for education, for professional development, they need to have their basic housing needs satisfied. And to this end, we want to help to support the social housing agencies, social rental agencies. And what we do falls into the framework of the European social funds: less poverty, higher employability, and social rental agencies are meant to be a tool that will help us to achieve the goals of European Social Fund. And we want to achieve those goals by means of experiments and social innovation. And of course, you might say that there is no room for experiments because there is quite a strict law which speaks about the creation and financing mechanism of social rental agencies. Perhaps the legal framework is strict, but we want to make sure that we will combine the housing services, the social housing services, with other efforts of taking care of vulnerable people, people past homelessness experience, people who are refugees, people who are socially vulnerable from another angle. They will be provided with partially refunded rent for the starting period. And at the same time, we will try to reintegrate the beneficiaries with the labor market so that they can actively participate in the labor market. And this will be probably the difference between the social rental agencies that we will sponsor and the other rental agencies set up in a bottom-up process, in a grassroots process. At the same time, we want to make sure that we make available housing stock and at the same time that we attract specialists such as medical doctors, such as educators, teachers. So all the terms of reference that we have framed are to be inviting and welcoming to professions that are most desirable in our respective municipalities or regions. And of course, there are no incentives for doctors or teachers to stay in certain smaller cities or towns, but housing offer might be an incentive that would keep them in the region, in the locality. And there is the competition that is running right now, and the beneficiaries will be provided with funds. We want to open the competition by December this year. And who will be eligible? Eligible will be municipalities willing to start social rental projects and social rental agencies, and also municipalities and other local authorities that already have such a social rental agency in operation, that have already started some activities and a mutually needed project. What we offer is 100 refinancing. The main object of financing will be subsidized rents that will be made available for 1 year, and the project itself will run for 3 years, plus additional social services that I have already mentioned. If I am to discuss the road leading to the creation of social rental agencies, I must honestly admit that we have already once experimented with such agencies. It was back in 2018, if I remember correctly. Unfortunately, back then, this was a failure. There was an invitation for bidders, and we started such a competition, but we operated in a vacuum, and only one offer was submitted in a competition. And I must say that this only bid was not really viable, not economically viable. 100% of the funds that were to be received were meant to be used for subsidizing rents without any sustainability element to it. So the social services represented only 8% of the total of the budget. So we decided not to grant funds to such a project. We didn't want to distort the market. We didn't want to come up with a very oversimplistic mechanism of subsidizing rents, because subsidizing rents is one-off experience. Once the funds are once we are short of funds, there will be no sustainability in the project. Whereas we wanted to have viable, sustainable projects, market-oriented projects, where there would be a win-win situation to the owner of a property, to the owner of the housing stock, be it public or private, and to the beneficiary. For 1 year or more, we invited new tenders, but unfortunately no other tender came in. So it was extremely difficult to get started back then. But we do hope that at the end of 2023, we find ourselves in an entirely new reality, legal and social reality. The budget for the competition is to the tune of 100 million zlotys. And in return for 100 million zlotys, we would like to finance at least 10 projects. And if there is interest, even more than 10 projects. Thank you. Thank you very much. And let me now move to the experiences from local governments and agencies themselves. Joanna Suska, Mayor of Chmiel, or Mayoress of Chmielów. She will tell us about her experiences, reflections, and lessons learned from the creation of social rental agencies. Hello, good afternoon. It is my pleasure to discuss our Chmielów experiences for you. We may be a small municipality, but we are very resourceful. So thank you for having me. Thank you for giving me the floor. Thank you for the panel and Habitat Foundation and the authors of the study on the subject, and you helped us to find our strengths and weaknesses in Chmielów. We are a very picturesque municipality, but we are located in a rural area and in the middle of rural areas. And based on SWOT analysis run by the foundation, for Chmielów, we can see that we are very well suited to set up the social rental agency in Chmielów, as much as some other municipalities all across Poland. We were also affected by the population, where people were really moving to larger cities, and at present, SAR is the social rental agency is a great way to turn around the fates of smaller municipalities such as Świebodzin, Dąbrowa Górnicza, or indeed ourselves. And I'm now meeting my childhood friends in the same circle. And I would say that the investment into human capital, something that will prevent any further depopulation and migration from Chmielów, will help us to achieve this goal.
So we are the city, the town with craftsmanship and rural tradition, and also first and foremost the manufacturing of China. And I'm sure that you've heard about the revitalized market project in Chmielów. If you look it up on internet, you will see that this is a very innovative market. So you can see this teapot and the teacups. So it's not that we use tea cups to drink tea from, but we also kind of sit in them. So that's just basically an infrastructure project that has this market square that basically is inspired by the manufacturing of China. So you have this teapot suspended in the air. It is very innovative, and this is also an attempt on our part to attract tourists, because the purchasing power when it comes to buying our China, and I mean here the Chmielów and Chodzież factories is generated, comes from tourists to a large extent. We also have the China museum, and we also have the porcelain workshop by Danuta Kabał. The museum is named after Sapała. So we are noticed in this field. I feel that the activation of the social rental agencies will help us to find some tenants for the vacant buildings, also based on the Polish order policies. Last year, the budget of Chmielów was 34 million zloty. That's the revenue value. Last year, that was 17 million that we could spend for the development, the growth of the municipality. So I feel that the programs, the schemes under the national order scheme can help us a lot. I am sure, I'm confident that we have the right infrastructure in terms of schools and kindergartens. We are just about to set up a creche, a nursery. We also can see a huge interest in allotments, land that we sell, because the prices are lower compared to other provinces. People who live in the suburbs of Sandomierz, the city of Sandomierz, you might be familiar with this beautiful city. There are orchards around Sandomierz. But people from Sandomierz, they tend to be interested and to buy properties in our region because of the presence of the orchards. There is an increased use of fertilizers, and people are afraid of damaging, harmful effect on their health, so they rather pick the allotments in our region. We also organize other types of activities. For instance, the saline spas. The first one of that kind, the most famous one, is of course in Busko-Zdrój, but we also offer this type of spa. Lots of very important and very positive for the health, very positive elements are there. We also have the Neolithic residential areas that are on the list of UNESCO heritage. So we have all of these things. On top of this brine graduation tower, we also have the UNESCO heritage residential areas. But there are also negative aspects. We have lots of vacant buildings in Chmielów, and that might be detrimental to the image of the city. There are some problems of a legislative nature related thereto. Of course, we need to tackle the issue of private ownership. Some of the residents believe that the municipality should take such vacant properties over, should acquire them, but unfortunately this cannot be done because this property is privately owned. In terms of Chmielów municipality, if we have long-term vacancies and if there is a legal interest of the municipality that can be proved a legitimate interest, then we can do something about these buildings. We can acquire them. Lots of such housing resources are dilapidated. They're close to ruin, and they need some management. If we think about such vacant properties, if it is even in a good technical condition, we still need to find out who property owner is. Such property needs to be owned, needs to have an owner, and only then can we make sure that such property is rented out to the benefit of all interested parties. The unemployment rate is at 6% in the municipality of Chmielów. This is a very low unemployment rate. I'm actually an expert when it comes to the labor offices, so employment agencies, so I know that this is a low rate. We do not have much problem in terms of providing funding for rent fees, but the problem is that it is not that easy to access such property. We have 23 such properties. Many people spend almost their whole lives in Chmielów. Families live in such houses. They might invest very moderate amounts of money in repair and upkeep. However, we deal with lots of applications from residents and non-residents in Chmielów, applications for allocation of such housing. The social the housing initiative is a good answer to these problems, good response. The municipality has already passed such acts that allow us to also focus our efforts on multi-family buildings, and also that enables us an access to the property. We applied for the financial support from the government. So in the future, we'll be able to build such houses after some period, say 15 years. The tenant will have the possibility of privately own such a house upon payment. So we will use such opportunities, trying to tap into the resources in the form of vacant property. We can see those captions, we can see those boards with information for sale. But there's no interest really, because such houses, such buildings are very often in a dire need of general renovation. Massive makeover. And this return to social rental agencies is a very good moment in time for us to undertake the right measures. There have been some attempts already, but now the time has come for everyone to take part in the process at the level of municipality. Anyone can participate. The most important thing is to acquire the package of fundings of measures that will be necessary to put them in place in order to renovate a property. Of course, it is a give and take situation. It's a trade-off to some extent. I mean, a private owner can get money, can get funding for renovation of their property, provided that they can rent it out. So after 5 years, it's still part of the housing stock. We dealt with such questions from private owners, whether they could sell this property after some period of time. And yes, they can. It's not that this property is taken away from them. After the period of 5 years, a private owner, after their house, their property has been renovated, can sell it if this is what they want. We also thought about a non-governmental organization that would run a social agency, a social rent agency. We are at the level of at the stage, I'm sorry, of searching for such NGOs so that we could work together. As far as the number of the residents is concerned, there are no limits there. I mean, we can address this package of measures at any locality, big or small. Municipalities are not excluded, of course. So we have this possibility to opt for sustainable development. There was this attempt, there was this information that came to us recently that some of the governmental agendas applied for initial access to those projects. So there are those problems, there are those opportunities. As far as the changes in legal framework is concerned, I feel that could help us a lot. The construction supervision is one of the dimensions, because very often this particular body has lots of problems with finding heirs of a particular property with an undefined ownership structure. So it's important to have this possibility too. If after 5 years, no one gets in touch with us as a potential successor, then after 5 years, after those 5 years, the municipality could become a manager of such property. So, for instance, if a building is, I don't know, crumbling into dust or just is in a bad need of renovation, we can do that as a municipality. Now, it's not possible. We can only seal this property, this estate off so that no one enters this property. And that's all we can do. So if this period of 5 years expires, and the municipality has no legal interest in tax payment, the municipality could actually, if no successor is found, could take over this property and manage it. The act was recently signed that I find is very useful. The road regulation, the road management, even the smallest part of the estate of the allotment, if it is assigned to be part of the road, then after some period of time, the municipality can take this part of the plot of the allotment over as a property, municipal property, and we can, from that moment on, apply, for instance, for funding required to repair a road. So I think that would be worthwhile if the experts put their heads together and analyze this particular dimension so that it does not collide with this sacred right to property. As I said before, we are now definitely in favor of social rental agencies, and it would be great to have this package of arrangement of solutions when we have access to external funding plus subsidies, rent subsidies. That's definitely a good sign, a good omen, and I feel that it can be a successful attempt at introducing this model. We have some unknowns that we need to tackle. If you have just one unknown, sometimes it's probably a safer option to pull out. But despite these unknowns, we still want to move forward. So I would like to use this opportunity to thank you for all this collaboration. We set up 15 dwellings of that kind in terms of funding. 4-5 municipal dwellings can be added to this stock. Of course, this is an initial step, but a massive leap, as a matter of fact, and lots of opportunities there. So the owners of those vacant properties, they can get some profit out of them. There will be some legal provisions, legal framework will be accordingly amended, and the cost of the rent will be balanced so that it does not exceed the financial resources of a given tenant. The objective is not to maximize profits or the income. The 11,000, these are the outstanding payments, really, the amount of outstanding payments. So I feel that the tenants actually pay quite regularly on time. There are no outstanding payments on a large scale. So I think that the tenants are able to meet the obligations arising from agreements that they signed, tenancy agreements that they're signed. And this way we can increase the housing resources at the level of municipality. Also, people from those localities in the proximity of Chmielów can be referred to us, and we have this amazing potential in terms of housing that we can tap into, both in terms of municipal housing and privately owned property. I'm very hopeful that we can sync all our activities, and the fact that we can set up a social rental agency in collaboration with other municipalities is possible. We can acquire together the funding. We can jointly apply for funding, and municipalities, regardless of their geographical location and their specific attributes, can join in, so we can have this concerted effort. Thank you very much for your attention, ladies and gentlemen.
Dziękuję bardzo. Dodam.
Thank you very much. I will just add one thing to what Mayor of Chmielów has just said. Municipality of Chmielów takes part in a Habitat for Humanity project. Now I would like to pass the floor to Mrs. Borowiec, Bożena Borowiec, the Vice President of Dąbrowa Górnicza. They also participate in the pilot program Wzajemnie Potrzebni related to social rental agencies. 3 days ago, I realized when I was going through the list of panelists for this session that life is unpredictable, really. I've lived in Dąbrowa Górnicza for my whole life, but I come from Chmielów, actually. I was born in Chmielów, so it is really quite a coincidence. I have a soft spot and actually lots of respect for Habitat for Humanity Poland. This organization has their headquarters as well in their seat in Dąbrowa Górnicza. We have a chapter of Habitat for Humanity there, so I hope that this collaboration will continue for many years to come. If there is any need for that, we can always exchange our experience. We can help each other out. Chmielów and Dąbrowa Górnicza, I mean. Since 2018, we have taught, so we have discussed the social rental agency model, and this is when it was actually adopted. We can think back to the times when the housing policy document was first drafted, and it included provisions related to the setup of the social rental agency in Dąbrowa Górnicza. In Dąbrowa Górnicza, as you probably know, We have ArcelorMittal Steelworks. It used to be called Katowice Steelworks, and it attracted lots of people from all over Poland to Dąbrowa Górnicza. They became residents of the city, and this is when a couple of residential estates were built. Also, hotels for workers were set up, and this way, Dąbrowa Górnicza attracted lots of new residents. In the 90s of the previous century, the local government was established, and those publicly owned, state-owned flats, apartments were offered to private tenants that could buy them out, that could purchase them. So this tradition of a buyout, so to speak, the tenants could buy the property that they used to rent, has been quite strong. We sold 10,000 dwellings in such a way, and we left some of them for council and social housing. So over the last 3 years, we decided that we should stop this sellout for the symbolic 1 zloty. And why? Because we would sell those stocks all the time, being left with those that are less profitable. We have now 3,000 dwellings, and a couple of percent of them are social houses or social flats. So I know that it probably doesn't sound very well to those who manage bigger housing stocks, but we have the Tenant Protection Rights Act, and actually the act does not specify until when the tenant ceases to be protected legally when they fail to pay rent. Our facilitator talked about this social trust and a number of other conditions. However, I think that this abuse of such a right is a bit problematic. The intention was noble because we want to protect a family that found themselves in dire straits from ending up on a street. But at the moment, what happens is that we have tenants that have 8,000 zloty per income per month, and they do not pay rent because only a stupid person would, right? If they cannot really be punished by law. So we have just 20% of our housing stocks that are social housing, and 70% of tenants do not pay rent. I love stats as a person that has a degree in social sciences. I just wanted to check how much we paid for tenants that are delayed with their rent, who do not pay actually for utilities. 7 million. So they also do not pay rent, and that's another couple of million of zloty. We have also those buildings that have that have coal-fired boilers. So we need actually to pay for all of those who do not pay 47 million. This is what we need, 47 million that can't be enforced. And this is the money that we could use in order to develop, to grow our housing stocks. When we talk about those people who would be attracted to Dąbrowa Górnicza, and here I can think of those people who back in the 70s, they would find employment with the Katowice Steelworks. Now they are retired. So let's say that they purchased this property and they went away and they left the property to, say, their successors, a grandson, say. And we realized, based on the analysis, that we have such buildings that the private homeowners are afraid to rent out. We have 20% of such dwellings in the city. So a social rental agency would be a good response to this problem. The city, the municipality, would give guarantees to homeowners, private homeowners, and that would encourage them to rent this vacant property out so that it serves the common purpose. In 2017, we decided to introduce such solutions, but unfortunately, the subsequent years were not advantageous to us.
In 2021, we started an intervention action, the setting up of a social rental agency, because either we needed to set up an agency or find an NGO that would operate such a social rental agency for ourselves. So we decided to issue a resolution where the existing social rental agency was entrusted with the new responsibilities. So 2021, this was the peak of COVID and the ban on eviction. So we started doing experiments. We started providing guesstimates. There were no funds, external funds made available to us. So we calculated we would need the budget of 2 million zloty, and not knowing what kind of tenants we would cater to. And given that there is a ban on eviction, we can only find tenants as a one-off exercise, knowing that there would be no way to evict people if they were in arrears. And we decided to do the screening of prospective tenants. Here we see the whole team, and Camille decided to work for Habitat for Humanity and invited Habitat to talk to us. Habitat had such suggestion in the pipeline last year. Habitat had money for renovation and overhaul of vacancies for residents from Ukraine. We have a call site for Ukrainian population in our municipality. And Habitat told us that if we were able to set aside and make available a portion of our housing stock for the Ukrainian refugees, they would cover the funds of renovation, of overhaul. And this is what we did by way of pilot project. And then we found some additional funds, because the readiness to provide funds to persons from Ukraine, there were many funds readily available. And of course, there was no point in investing in collective accommodation sites because they are not the ultimate target. And instead of modernizing and overhauling those call sites, we came up with a new offer of apartments to be made available to Ukrainian refugees. And this renovation project was in the pipeline. And we finally came to the conclusion that having such a solid partner, reliable partner, the most credible and experienced NGO in this area of social rental, we decided to go ahead, full steam ahead, to do the pilot project. And unfortunately, the road towards the establishment of social rental agency was very turbulent, was not easy. As the conflict in Ukraine continues, it turned out that there is certain imbalance suggested in our local governmental policies. I'm in charge of social policy and education in our city. So to address the imbalance between the Ukrainian refugees and the Polish people, we decided to uh, propose another resolution, but this new resolution was even more pointless than the previous one. And at one point, it proved that the wording of a new resolution was not palatable. So finally, we decided to redraft the resolution. We had our session in September, and we hope that we will enter into formal agreement with Habitat. The law firms servicing ourselves and Habitat work full steam ahead. We hope that we will be closing the deal for 5 years very soon. So we do hope that Habitat will work with us even longer than 5 years. And there is a new place to accommodate them. And as Mateusz from Habitat was telling me that there is a new idea, I thought that this would be a very interesting idea. Social rental agency with a solid and trusted partner. Well, this will allow us to kill few birds with one stone, so to say. I spoke to Jakub Wilczek in 2018. We prepared homelessness standards, and it turned out that having a solid and robust social housing agency, we can address a lot of local problems, a whole spectrum of local problems. We have various housing stock, council housing, social housing. My housing department director was traveling all across our city together with the Habitat specialist, and we were working to identify new housing stock, attractive housing stock. Habitat has very good experience in this respect. They even were supported by volunteers from Ireland who helped out in renovation and overhaul. So quite recently, together with Madam Minister, we went to see the graffiti inviting the potential tenants to come over and to reside. We have 26 municipal council apartments and 24 are rented from the private owners. And we do hope that once the agency is fully operational and kicks off the ground, and once the agency has some credible track record as the functioning agency, if people see that Habitat has also their representative office in our town, then people will be more eager to cooperate with us. Dąbrowa Górnicza is a city that is developing very well due to special economic zone. We have a Korean battery factory in the vicinity. We have numerous Korean families renting houses and apartments. So this has increased our rental prices substantially. So there is deposit money, there are high rents, And many people need to look for social housing or council housing. If you want to buy an apartment from the private market, you need to pay some 8,000 zlotys for square meter. And additionally, you need to have additional funds for final outfit. If so, with such high prices, the potential tenant needs to consider rental or social rental rather than buying a flat for themselves. And we have two institutions of higher learning in Dąbrowa Górnicza. So to make young people stay in our town, we try to earmark certain apartments, 168 apartments, very modernly designed with terraces and playground and kindergartens. And admittedly, we have too many kindergartens right now. So in a moment, we will try to attract children from the rural areas and daycare centers and kindergartens need to be filled with children from adjacent municipalities. So we try to come up with 3 in 1. So school, kindergarten, and the nursery or the daycare center for the youngest infants in one location. At the same time, we need to work very hard not to create ghettos. So to prevent ghettoization, we try to immerse certain families in areas that are less problematic. And for instance, if we have families with many children, and if they are especially vulnerable, we try to locate such families in the most welcoming neighborhood. So we very much concentrate our effort on the social rental agency. If one is entitled to council housing or social housing, one will be soon eligible to social rental. And social rental step is the crowning glory of the whole process. And we do hope that at the beginning of our prospective cooperation with Habitat, we may be hopeful for the future. The social rental agency will probably be developing at a very good pace. Probably we will be able to get rid of homelessness and to combat the problem of homelessness while developing social rental and social housing. And this is all from me. I know I have spoke at length. Yes, if you are supported by the Ministry of Funds, you will certainly have money for such projects. Now we are coming close to the adjacent municipality of Żyrardów. Sylwia Matejek-Gnacińska is the representative of an organization that runs the social rental agency. So she's not on behalf of the City Council of Żyrardów. Would you like to tell us more about your idea and how you want to set up a SAN in Żyrardów? Good afternoon. Yes, I indeed represent an agency that has been invited by the municipal council to help out with unavailability of housing stock in Żerardów. And we are actually talking, using various terms, but always speaking about the resolution of the same problem. Before the entry of Poland to the European Union, we had a project of revitalizing of housing stock. And as the revitalization of housing stock developed in Żerardów, we decided to pair this project with the social rental. Why was social rental important to us in Żerardów? Well, in our revitalization project, we have one massive building which has a social elderly club, social daycare center, social kindergarten, and there are two stories left or floors left, which used to be accommodated by, used to be operating as the hostel or a student's hostel for local medical school. And now, as the needs of the local residents developed, it was necessary to set up the social rental agency. The Archangel Michael Foundation that I represent started with setting up a social daycare center, non-public daycare center, and following on our success, the municipality of Żerardów decided we would be ideal for mutually needed project, and we were quite enthusiastic about starting this project. We are quite spontaneous. We thought that we would make it until the end of this year, and in cooperation with the City Hall of Żerardów, we started a project whose beneficiary we are. The object of this project is the creation of the effective system of managing local housing stock and setting up the social rental agency. So these were the two legs of the project. And what we do is operating in those two areas. This is all centered on creating homes. And homes are to be given out or offered to the people, to the local people. And the right to have a home is very important if we want to create a sustainable and long-term process of supporting vulnerable people in their way out of their vulnerabilities. So this is like a long-term project, infrastructural projects, but also human-oriented projects, social projects. And this is a common denominator for a revitalization project, which is very much human-oriented, especially in the present financial perspective, but also in this other leg of the project that is mutually needed wzajemnie potrzebni. This humanocentric approach is the central thing. And we signed 2 co-financing agreements for the first leg of the project and for the second leg of the project. So for the social rental agency and for the mutually needed activity. And we came up with the suggested eligibility criteria for future beneficiaries. Fortunately, this list was acceptable to everyone. Nobody repealed the suggested eligibility check. And we decided to be active on various in various veins, but we need to wait for the approval of all the respective authorities. So this streamlined and strengthened our cooperation with the local municipality.
Of course, there was adequate publication in the Journal of Laws of our province, and on the 27th of July, we signed the cooperation agreement with our municipality. Starting from the 27th of July this year, we have been the social rental agency in Żyrardów. Of course, that involved a number of additional changes, for instance, the resolution on the possibilities of leasing properties and facilities for the period longer than 3 years. As far as details of our operations are concerned, our location at Waryński Street is one of the things that I'd love to discuss. So we had to increase our efforts, social and technical efforts related to the housing stock. We have a dozen or so small dwellings, 15 times 14 square meters. That's the surface, and that was actually the property rented out to the students of the medical academy. And we will have 28 dwellings on 2 stories, 2 floors that will be property of the municipality. However, due to the change of the form of use, they will be adapted to livable housing. And we will have this shared space on each floor, but this time we'll have separate bathrooms and separate kitchenettes per each floor. That's quite a challenge because we have 5 stories in this facility, so building actually the sanitary system for such a large number of apartments is quite a daunting challenge. But we were familiar with this facility from the very beginning. We adapted the premises on the 2nd floor to the needs of a crash. So I think that we are fairly experienced in that field. The building was set up in 1970. We are prior to renovation, but I've had some experience cooperating with the experts supervising the historical buildings of historical value. So it actually took a short time for us, and we are also on the near the area related to the central communication port. So we are now at the final stage, we can say, near the completion. Most of the sanitary outlets have been already completed. So we think that this quick renovation provided a huge opportunity for local governments, and NGO took care of it. But probably thanks to that solution, those arrangements, we managed to do it really fast. And also we had a social involvement that was quite important in terms of soft skills, soft field action of operations. Inclusion is important too, or integration, as a matter of fact, actually, between social services, infrastructure, and property and housing. So as far as the social field goes, we operate in employment area, education area, but also we provide social services. Projects-wise, we've had more and more opportunities to partner up with the social enterprises after the adoption of the Adequate Act. They have been really engaged in professional activation of excluded members of a society. So they take part in renovation projects. We always combine these fields. Infrastructure and social dimensions go hand in hand. So briefly speaking, this is the path that we have followed so far. As far as the legal and administrative issues are concerned, this is what we had to tackle, of course, in the view of social rental agencies. And as we talked about it actually at the Prime Minister's Chancellery, that we will continue in the same vein. It will evolve. We have a dozen or so organizations that received funding under this project, and all of us, we do not plan to cease our efforts. Quite the contrary, we want to evolve, want to grow. We want to set up more and more social rental agencies. Director has mentioned a program that I would like to refer to at the moment. It will this program will give access to opportunities as far as renovation goes in the area of social rental agencies, but it has to cover this social component. Let us not forget that the European Social Fund has this possibility to provide support in terms of infrastructure and cross-financing mode, but we provide support to people, to individuals. Let's not overlook this fact. We help people to improve their situation for the better by a wide range of social measures, including housing initiatives. We want this individual human being to really visible, to be the center of our activity. And from the point of view of NGOs, of course, this human being, an individual has been always in the center. Problems of individuals are problems that we want to solve. We want to help those people cope with these issues properly. And that's what we're planning to do. That's what we have been doing and what we intend to do in the future. Thank you very much. As part of Wzajemnie Potrzebni program, one of the requirements is to implement other activities in social field, and not just social rental agencies related activities. So we talk here about measures that will enable people, job seekers, to find employment, that will provide services in terms of family care. Now let's proceed to Habitat for Humanity project. We will go further to the west of Poland. Now I would like to pass the floor to Tomasz Sielicki, the mayor of Świebodzin. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to give you a brief outline of the situation that we're dealing with in Świebodzin. Please imagine this city, 20,000 residents, 200,000 people in rural areas. We have a certain administrative division there. Starting from 2018, so it's been 4 or 5 years, we've acquired 400,000 production warehouse premises in terms of square meters, and we managed to increase our income tremendously. So it's a land of plenty. We have lots of money in terms of the local government's budget. We have a high employment rate. So one would think that such a municipality won't have any problems. Everyone can afford a rent. Nothing bad can happen. However, all of a sudden, here comes the surprise. The housing situation in Świebodzin has not improved. Quite the contrary, it actually started to deteriorate. So we have an economic success, economic achievement, but it seems that we are not doing okay on that front. So over the last 2 decades, we built 84 municipal dwellings, so that's approximately 25% of our housing stocks in that respect. Of course, a high employment rate should increase the rents. People should afford renting out in a private market, but it does not happen. There is more and more people lining up for social housing. There are more and more people queuing up for council housing. We have more and more people waiting for TPS housing, which is the housing society. When I started my work and we would go to those Monday meetings to the mayor related to housing, who would attend those meetings? How do you think? Only those people who are in a dramatic situation, proper dire straits, people who would stem from such communities that are affected by structural unemployment, or people who, due to some unexpected circumstances, saw their lifestyle quality decline dramatically and rapidly. So what happened then was that whole families would apply for the housing help or housing support. We would have a father and a mother and a couple of kids at in a kindergarten, and they would apply for support because they couldn't afford a rental anymore. Now, if you want to rent a 2-bedroom flat, 15 square meters, it's 2,500 zloty of rent. 1 square meter is 7,000 zloty when you think about the property developers' prices. So I think these are absolutely horrendous, outrageous amounts, especially given low credit rating of many residents and a rather unfavorable economic situation. So I think that many people now cannot really afford a roof over their heads. That's the problem our city has to tackle. We have some resources when it comes to council housing, social housing, but we have only 500 dwellings left out of 500. Of course, that's actually now you can see the difference between what is currently what the prices are at the moment and what they used to be. So it's a huge gap. Now it's much more expensive. People who would buy property back in the day, they don't live in those houses, in those apartments anymore. The children moved out of Świebodzin. So this property abandoned there is a sort of an investment. It is rented out at a market fee, at a market rate. And given the fact that there are many new companies mushrooming into Świebodzin, lots of new employees, the private homeowners can actually give very high quotes when it comes to the amount of rental that they expect. So we would have to cool the market, I think. The municipality should not be this domineering institution when it comes to development of a housing policy. However, it should oversee the process, providing some regulations. It should have some control over the access to the municipal housing stocks. And this is how we can discuss the role of social rental agencies. Observing the experience of other local governments, we draw our own conclusions. So, for instance, we were very impressed by the central administration in Świebodzin, and not just in the dimension of the housing. Approximately 500 dwellings that we have. Now 40 of them are vacancies that are not habitable, that we can't really put tenants in them. So what we'd like to achieve is to increase by those vacancies the housing stocks of social rental agencies. We could tap into this administrative potential to a full extent, instead of setting up new entities, instead of multiplying staff and generating extra costs. We could actually administer the already existing resources in a more effective manner, starting from those 40 vacancies, vacant buildings that we already have at our disposal. I think that over the next couple of months, we'll be able to renovate the first 8 of them, and this will be our starting point. In the years to come, we intend to increase those housing stocks by more flats, by more apartments, more dwellings, so that the this social housing society will have a larger housing stock at their disposal. Renovation from a technical point of view is one thing. However, there's another thing that we need to have a good look at. And here I will present to you a certain thesis that you might disagree with, or maybe it will be a food for thought for you. The social housing system in Poland over the last 30 years has proved to be a spectacular failure because it failed to improve the situation of tenants who occupy such buildings. It only petrified the poverty. That's exactly what I have said. Yes, indeed. So we are in agreement. Those tenants who back in the day, they obtained those council flats, social dwellings. Their lifestyle, their living situation did not really improve tremendously. They had a roof over their heads, but that was it. And we, representing the authorities, we thought that we are off the hook because we met the statutory requirement, and this is it. We don't need to do anything else, anything more. However, this roof over their heads, instead of being springboard, a stepping stone for a better lifestyle, became a burden. This is what one of the speakers here has said. Lots of those tenants, they do not pay their rent. They don't have to. 90% of those people living in these dwellings cannot be removed from them, cannot be evicted. What can we do? We can come up with some court proceedings. We can stigmatize this group. But is it really a common sense approach? Does it make sense? If it hadn't really worked over the last 30 years, that probably we shouldn't continue in the same vein. And here, when the competitive edge of social rental agencies comes to full view, this is something that we should have been doing a long time ago. What I mean is to partner up with those individuals on an everyday basis to demonstrate to them quite clearly why they received the access to such flats. They can improve their lives. We should present to them the vision of a better life that they could have compared to what they experience now. And first and foremost, we should respond, address their needs on an ongoing basis. A human being is a creature that sometimes, even if they want to do their best, they're ashamed of their problems. They'd rather sweep it under the carpet because this is how they can pretend that the problems do not exist. But those problems, they pile up. So even a person that is full of good intentions, if there is this pile of problems, those people will trip over those problems. They will be overwhelmed. So this is what happened. That was the fate shared by many clients of social housing. So what can we do? We can reach out to those people. We can show to them what opportunities are ahead of them. We can show to them that those dwellings are a stepping stone for them to a better lifestyle, better life, better quality life. They can use it to improve their living conditions, and they will vacate the flat that can be given to those who are in a dire need of it now.
We have about 300 histories, individual people, 300 problems that we have in Świebodzin. And we should really change the mindset and not see people as numbers, as digits, but rather see individual histories and come up with bottom-up assistance eligible for each and every of them. What is the highest value in social rental agencies? Well, seeing people as people. Social rental agencies are not about money. They are about people as individuals and the individuals who need a helping hand. And this is the potential we have as social rental agencies. Thank you.
Dziękuję bardzo.
Thank you very much, Mayor. And now let us come to a brief Q&A session. I will moderate this Q&A session, and we have some 10 minutes overrun that is possible. So there will be quite substantial time to to pull up your questions. So in a moment, we will switch into Q&R. And before I do so, I will ask just my questions of the panelists. Over to Sylwia Matejek-Nacińska. I may not have understood properly who is going to be the beneficiary of the housing stock you provide, what kind of social groups. And now that you have one building, and there are also certain service outlets in this building, will it be enough, or do you want to expand? Now, I will take your second question first. We have 28 apartments from the city council resource, and on top of that, we have 14 privately owned apartments. So all in all, there will be 32 apartments on stock. And as to the target beneficiaries, here we are bound by the resolution of the City Council of Żyrardów, the resolution which provides who is going to be eligible to the housing stock we have. These will be primarily the people who will fill in the housing gap. So these are people who are not eligible to social and council housing because they have too high revenues, but their revenues are not enough to allow them to rent out on the commercial market. So we can emphasize that our social rental agency operates only in our municipality. So eligible will be people who are residents of the municipality, who have appropriate levels of income and who are threatened with social exclusion, who may be marginalized. And as for our blueprints for the future, we have long-term goals and short-term goals. In the short-term perspective, we want to resolve finish off the wzajemnie potrzebny, mutually needed project and make available 33 apartments under this project. And in good cooperation with the City Hall of Żyrardów, we will probably be able to apply for funds from Social Fund Plus of the European Union. At the same time, we want to make sure that we have more access to private market stocks, but private apartments, private houses are not really readily available to us. Why? Because this all burns down to mutual trust, to the minimis rules of the European Union, and we try to take stock of the experiences of Żyrardów and of the municipality of Dąbrowa Górnicza, Mońki, and other partner municipalities. And looking at their experience, we want to phrase our rental contract most adequately. So we use certain tried and tested methods from the pilot project. And we are also open to share our own experiences, our draft and template regulations and documents, so as to make sure that we operate based on very solid documents. We, as the social rental agency, yesterday at the meeting of our steering committee, there was an idea started that after 5 years in operation, there will be 400 apartments available in the social rental agency. Well, the bar is placed very high, but I do hope we make it. I do hope we make it. So do I. Thank you. So do I. My next question goes out to Joanna Suska. If I understood you correctly, Chmielów is starting out with the concept of using the local private market, and the local private housing market is going to be the starting point for you. Well, in Poland, we have fairly limited access to stats concerning housing situation and housing needs in small municipalities are in fact a terra incognita. We cannot really reach out. The Central Chief Statistical Office doesn't help us out either. And looking at various housing strategies, municipal housing strategies, we see that there is some general and not tailor-made information, and very much it will be extremely important to see the reactions of the private market to the first social rental agencies. This will predetermine the fates of social rental agencies. Over to you, Joanna. Well, we have 15 flats from the private market and 5 from the council market. It is not a lot. It is not a lot, and I wish we had more. But at present, we are still struggling with establishing private property rights to various properties. And this is the problem that is common to many small municipalities. And we do hope that there will be new law which will help us to find out what is the property status of vacant property, so that we can hand over certain properties after 5 years of being not paid for. And then we could renovate such properties and include them to our own housing stock after 5 years' time, after the lapse of 5 years. And this would be without any detriment to the previous owners. So a private owner would decide whether they would sell out the property or rent it out. So this is yet to be determined. Unfortunately, as we look at the level of public awareness, we see that very often private owners do not have money whatsoever to renovate and to overhaul their properties. So only assisted by Humanitat and only in cooperation with local municipalities, individuals will be able to renovate their vacant houses and flats, and in return, they will make them available for social rental purposes. And Indeed, as the mayor of Świebodzin mentioned it, we are in a legal deadlock because there are certain families which received court decision about ban on eviction, and then if such non-solvent families are to be evicted, they will be immediately granted another social housing offer, and the problem will reappear again. The positive aspect is that we teach people to be more proactive, not to be just passive. So one will be given the access to social socially rented apartment. For 5 years' time, rental fees will be subsidized, and once the time has lapsed, the persons will be left the leeway. Either they continue in the same model or they give up such a place.
So those educational subsidies that will follow them into their municipalities, and the municipality is richer by accessing such potential, by such resources, also by having these measures invested in the educational field. I can see only benefits, no threats for the time being. Obviously, there will be some obstacles on our way. That is certain. However, this outline of cooperation that I've just described to you is satisfactory, and at the level of seeking for partnership with NGOs that would cooperate with the municipality of Chmielów in order to set up the social rental agency. Our potential is really huge, it's enormous. So I think that we can go in that direction, we can adopt this course and increase the housing stock, so property, and also teach those people that they're not helpless, help them improve their lives, and there is potential for this action to be profitable, and I feel that the odds for success are fairly high. I have a question to Mr. Krasuski. We have, let's say, this X city with the freshly set up social rental agency facing the following task. They need to be an intermediary between the private homeowner and the potential tenants, people who are in need for housing support. So this is a situation that we're dealing with when it comes to social rental agencies now. Would the agency or the municipal authorities, would they be able to apply for the funding from the social fund, European Social Fund, as part of the innovation scheme, by extending their operations, their profile of operations, by adding these additional forms of support in the field of professional activation? And how would this subsidy, this funding, be later settled per entity? Thank you for this question. It pertains to a very specific situation of those few municipalities that have already set up social rental agencies. Of course, this is much easier than entering the project without SAR. We do not rule out these pioneers, of course not. However, the terms and conditions will be slightly different. So it won't be this simple types of financing based on principles of Wzajemnie Potrzebni pilot program. They will first of all need to define the recipient group, the users group, from the point of view of a EFS, because the agency will be something broader. This is a general concept from a statutory point of view. We can think about people who are in this rent gap as our potential users. So there is no other reason for a social exclusion, such as disability or unemployment, that can be thought of, or for instance, place of origin. In that case, that be Ukraine, for instance. So what we will need to start from is to indicate the target group. Once we have done that, this will be a group of people who will use the property, the dwellings acquired by SARs. And we will be able to use those two principal mechanisms in relation to this group. First of all, rent subsidy. That's the first mechanism. It's a response to what you have all discussed so far. Namely, you pointed to this difficulty with acquiring property from private homeowners. So if we don't want to deplete the housing stocks of a municipality used for social council housing, instead of doing that, we can try to acquire commercial property by alleviating or neutralizing this gap. So, of course, because there is a gap between what the tenant can and should pay and what the homeowner would like to collect in terms of a rent payment. Another tool or another instrument of support that I would like to mention is all about social services. Those social services need to be selected appropriately. That's related very much to this original decisions that we make at the beginning of the process. We can have, for instance, the group of Ukrainians or people who are subject to temporary protection. Take them as an example. We choose the right support for this group, to this population, and it gives them some hope that they can become self-reliant, self-sufficient, independent after, say, half a year or so, and they can leave the project. They can stop being users of this project. They can, so to speak, get promoted to the next stage when they can actually independently pay the rent from their own resources. We also would like to cover the cost of renovation, but up to 15% of the project's budget, because we are talking here about the European Social Fund, so we cannot spend all the resources in it for infrastructure alone. And another mechanism is related to financial instruments that will help us mitigate risk. So this is yet another incentive for private homeowners, but homeowners in general, but particularly private homeowners, so that they can get, for instance, unpaid rent covered financially. When you have this gap in rent payment, when a flat is vacant, that can be covered too. Or the damage to the dwellings, the damages can be covered too. So these are incentives for the homeowners, so that they can be more encouraged to join the project. Of course, we have those weak areas of the project, and I hope that the support will be well addressed. Now I would like to ask the mayor of Świebodzin, Tomasz Sielicki, what the head of the Social Building Society, what did she do that she actually became the head of the Social Rental Agency project? I've been a great fan of this approach, of this attitude that if we use the resources of social housing properly, then we can achieve a lot in the area of social housing. Well, we had to basically give more duties to the lady in question, because she had a lot on her plate already, so she just needed more to do. We, instead of setting up new unusual, extraordinary administrative legal entities just to earn our bragging rights. Instead of doing that, we prefer a different mode of acting. I think that this is something that anyone could do, even a second-year law student. But to use effectively what you already have at hand, that is, I believe, the most difficult task that we are faced with in terms of territorial management or administration at the level of local governments. If now you have a company, let's say you have this company with their own housing resources, stocks from the social building society. And at the same time, they manage the housing communities in Świebodzin, then this entity represents a tremendous administrative potential, but also a tremendous experience that we can draw upon. For instance, if we think about such opportunities as meetings with tenants, they can share this knowledge with us where the vacant buildings, vacant dwellings are. We can identify them more easily. And we can address the owners of such entities, of such buildings. We can retrieve these and add them to our housing resources, housing stocks. So if we have an SAR at our disposal, we know that there is a vacant building somewhere, we can address the owner of such building and ask them whether they'd be interested in contributing to the housing stocks of the social rental agency. We're talking here about a municipal company, and the support will be provided by the social building society. So from the point of view of administration management, cooperation of a municipal company with another municipal entity, well, that's easier. If we have municipal entities that are anyhow interconnected, then such partnership is just more feasible. It's easier to achieve. From the point of view of the municipal office in Świebodzin, it's easier to coordinate these activities, to manage them, and we can thus increase the efficiency and effectiveness of such operations. To put it bluntly, it's easy for me to have a director of a municipal housing community in the office and just, for instance, arrange a meeting between representatives of two municipal entities. We can make it happen more easily. I have a question to Bożena Borowicz. It's a very quick question. It's a yes or no question when it comes to an answer. Does Habitat for Humanity plan for workshops for entirely green municipalities and green NGOs that would be part of the next year's forum, so that these organizations could basically could hold one-day workshops? Okay, so the answer is yes, it will happen. I'm afraid we need a microphone to be passed over to a speaker. Well, you know, we have two ladies. If two ladies get together and they both chatterboxes, this is what happens. Okay, do we have any questions, ladies and gentlemen?
Obrony praw lokutorów. Ja mam dwa pytania.
I have two questions, and I am from the Committee of the Tenants Protection. The first question goes to the Mayor of Świebodzin. We talked about 40 flats, 40 dwellings, and they're supposed to be transferred to the Social Building Society. In what form this will happen? I understand that the SAR has an agreement with a private home owner. There'll be a lease agreement, I presume. between the two. And now, if we're supposed to pass it over to the municipality, will it be based on a separate agreement? And it will be also in a tenancy or lease agreement? That is my first question. The second question, as far as the agreement with SAR, social rental agencies, I understand that this is a definite period agreement. Are these institutional agreements, occasional lease agreements? What kind of agreement is it? What kind of form of tenure is involved there? And what protection for tenants is provided for in the provisions of such agreements?
All right, so in general, we will probably transfer such apartments based on the management contract, and on the basis of this management contract, the local building society, social building society will manage the stock, and the type of contracts will be classical lease contracts. And let me tell you the following. What we have mentioned was the most fundamental sense of trust. And no municipality that creates the social rental agency does so only to abuse the tenants and to evict the tenants in the end. No. The purpose is quite different: to resolve problems, also potential problems with tenants. And my other proposition that I would like to suggest is that in general in Poland, the tenant is a very privileged person in a very privileged position. It's difficult to find a person who would be better protected under our civil law, given the number of privileges and the broad scope of protection, and it may curb one's property rights effectively if one has tenants who are so very much empowered. Of course, there are landlords who are not honest and who tend to evict anyone that is not palatable to them. But I think that having this tripartite relation, when we have tenant community, tenant social rental agency, and the municipality, we should really rely on the most fundamental sense of trust and goodwill. And very often we hear this question from municipalities: what shall we do once tenants are no longer solvent and cannot pay their rents? And my answer is that we should operate in such a way so as to make sure that people are solvent and can pay the rents. And if they become insolvent, we should help them to restore their financial credibility so that they can pay the rents, pay the utilities. Of course, there will be failures, but we cannot be possibly inactive. Please. Good afternoon, Krystyna Krzykotowska, the postgraduate department of intermediary services and rental laws. And since we have so many delegates from municipalities here, well, I want to tell you that we in our Łazarski University, we employ practitioners, that is yourselves. Students have already solid knowledge, and what they need is a practical insight. So my question is as follows. I used to work in a municipality. I used to be the housing stock manager, and doing the research on the jurisprudence of the Polish courts in property in housing cases, I had this impression that a way out of the problems would be amicable some settlement of court disputes, especially court disputes related with related to the eviction cases where the tenants are to be evicted. And of course, the prospect of being evicted is a tremendous stress. And we know the jurisprudence and the is very delayed, and the courts take very long time to examine such cases. Much depends on who is the claimant, but amicable agreements, if any, are entered into by the housing cooperatives, and they are in a way a go-between. And if the amicable settlement is not possible, then the case is landed in a court. So I do appreciate your social mindset here in this community. But at some points, I was like a legal advisor to the municipality, and I felt ashamed because the municipality or the housing community was so greedy that I was very uneasy being paid from taxpayers' money to stand against taxpayers. For instance, I had a case before a court where the son and the husband of the lady in question passed away, died of cancer. She suffered from cancer herself, and this was like a non-for-profit case run by my late husband. But it took 20 years to defend the lady. I know that there are more questions waiting in the line, so I would like to finish off with the following appeal. Well, could we really work closer together to make sure that such dramatic scenarios are ruled out? Hello, I'm Jacek Kulikowski. I work for the Polish Red Cross as of July. I've been the specialist for housing, and together with the International Federation of Red Cross Societies, we run the accommodation program for refugees from Ukraine. And as you say, what to do if people are no longer solvent, what to do to prevent eviction. SUN, that is the social rent agencies, have some absorption capacities to absorb the cases of insolvency for a starting period of time. And a question to the representative of the ministry. What are the pending needs of Ukrainian refugees? Are there any pending gaps that must be breached by humanitarian organizations rather than the ministry at this stage? Very briefly, to take your question, I cannot speak my own mind because we, as the ministry responsible for funds, we do not have this portfolio, but the Ministry of the Interior in Poland, the ministry that obtains direct subsidies from the European Union, not structural funds, but well, the Ministry of the Interior say that there are some 400,000 people who are still in coal sites, and they need to be transferred into more eligible housing. And this is the gap that will need to be bridged either by public resources or by private and humanitarian resources, so as to help the people to exit coal sites. And this is probably the question to the Minister of Interior as well. Good afternoon, Michał Zgórzek. I work in the City Council of Warsaw. I was not in charge of the resolution on SARS, but I know that certain municipalities create such social rental agencies based on their own housing stock, whereas some others rely on private stock. And have you done risk analysis for private stock? What should happen once the tenancy contract is over and the tenant doesn't vacate the apartment after the expiry of a tenancy contract? Because for Świebodzin, this is probably the risk that you are prepared to shoulder. But a private individual may go bankrupt and may not wait until tenants are solvent again. Who is going to bear the costs of accommodation of such persons if they are not solvent and if the tenancy contract has expired? And if you ladies started cooperation agreements with municipalities, how did you split the risks and the costs between agencies and municipalities? Well, now that I have my mic, I must admit that we have not done any risk analysis. The assumption was that there will be annual tenancy contracts and with private stock owners, we would enter into 5-year long contracts. So this is a new situation, like a learning experience for us. And at one point, we have come to the conclusion that the municipality should have no council housing stock, but should rather have an operator of such properties as Habitat. And Habitat, knowing the nature of the problems in families, should work to make sure that families are solvent, are not in arrears. And if I may add something more, if I have time, well, let me tell you that we have housing quarter, and this used to be like a social ghetto with very expanded administration structures. And when I entered into office and I double-checked the viability of administration, I decided to fire administrative staff and set up the Club of Social Reintegration instead. And this was really a very poignant change because they really turned the situation around and helped people to be more proactive. Because risk analysis is one thing, but if we have people who have no accommodation, we need to somehow accommodate them using good services of social rental agencies. It is not that we brush aside all the responsibility and want to impose everything on Habitat. No, we are there. We as municipality, we are there. If there are certain liabilities, we will pay out, and in line with what Habitat has defined and with what Habitat has predetermined as our shared, we have set aside such funds in our multi-annual financial perspective, and we will try and test various solutions as we have done so using the social and council housing. Sometimes we allow to pay the outstanding rents by
nie z kimś, kto nie
in installments. So this is, as I'm saying, the way up the learning curve. And Habitat probably possesses much more experience about what to do than ourselves. So this is learning by doing. And the question that was asked of us was like the pre-definition of the housing policy in Poland. What should be done in Poland in order to make a landlord feel safe once he has some housing stock to be made available? So there was a question from the lady who's absent right now. Is the short-term lease agreements, notaries agreements, and this shows you how pathological our housing market is. Everyone wants to brush aside any responsibility, and this is absolutely no-go. If there is a family whose total disposable income is 8,000, should not pay any rents and not cover the utility costs. No, this is just a laughing stock because and I think that after this workshop session, we'll know how to proceed further. And probably we will dwell on that as we meet next year. And another question, ladies and gentlemen, concerning the question from the gentleman here, I think that an excellent management tool to marginalize the need for eviction. Well, this tool is the set of criteria, recommended eligibility criteria, as Habitat for Humanity Poland has done, where the income criterion must be higher than it would be in a social or housing or council housing, but with some element of flexibility. And we read in this draft document that the person should be employed in the municipal and residing in the municipal for 3 years. So this is someone who is already known to us, and eligibility criteria have been formed to minimize the risk. Thank you.
Pytanie.
And the last very quick question, please. My name is Julia from the Foundation Mieszkanie Polskie. I'm not sure whether I can do it quickly. I'm not sure of it, but I'll try. So I'll try to be as fast as possible. My foundation is specialized in education of employees, creating teams, providing support to persons that find it difficult to keep a flat, to keep an apartment. This is some skill that each of us should have. This is actually the key to success when it comes to maintaining your own flat, your own apartment, to have accommodation. So I think that as SRAs have those two pillars really that they are founded on. One is related to housing stock. That's something that you're dedicated to. And the second pillar, or the second leg, so to speak, is the support. Here we can actually learn a lot, drawing upon experience of users of such programs and schemes based on detailed research, detailed study among users. I'm talking about a Home Lab project. We came up with those foundations for SRAs. I would like to ask you the following question. How the ministry that announced the competition would like to provide support to the institutions that manage the agency, so that the experience of users, of participants of such programs can be part of the process. Do you plan for some direct study, evaluations, ongoing consultations that could take place, so that we can keep this model up to date, so that it meets the needs, actual needs of the tenants, of the persons who occupy such dwellings? I sincerely hope that once we've had a dozen or so social rental agencies set up in Poland, something that is very popular in the Western Europe will happen. Namely, SRAs will organize themselves to create this umbrella organization. it will be still a non-governmental type of activity, addressing two issues, two problems. First of all, searching for and promoting best practices. And secondly, exchanging information on ongoing problems and issues. And thirdly, promoting the whole idea of SRAs outside. I hope that such an umbrella organization will be set up as soon as possible, and it will perform the function similar to the function that this organization has in Germany. Would you like to add anything, ladies and gentlemen? Very briefly, if I may, because the ministry has been mentioned. As far as evaluation is concerned, we are at the stage of an experiment at the moment. So this experiment will target various groups, and it will be conducted under various circumstances. We're planning to monitor the process on an ongoing, step-by-step basis, so that the supervisors can, or the observers, so to speak, can rectify the activities of local governments whenever such need arises on an ongoing basis. As far as the combination of services is concerned, here I'm referring to your question. From our point of view, given the nature of the European Social Fund, this is an obligatory criterion, obligatory requirement. Even the activation activities are actually more important from the point of view of the specific nature of the fund than other aspects. So they are more important also financially. We cannot really impose a particular modus operandi on local governments. A lot depends on decisions made by local governments and municipalities, and on what principles the support within SRAs will be provided. I believe that the local governments will know best what to do, whom to support, and what resources to tap into in order to provide the necessary support, with whom to cooperate, with whom to team up, partner up. I do not believe that these services will be provided exclusively by local governments. I would like to encourage the private entities to take part, including social enterprises in particular. Anyone else, ladies and gentlemen? I would like to emphasize the following issue. The NGOs, non-governmental organizations that work with various groups of people on development of various documents, individual support plans. They very often are quite familiar with the people that they work for. So I feel that what is really important is that the SRAs are managed by NGOs that are familiar with the market, that know how to use particular opportunities offered by various forms of support and services, and which are more flexible in terms of transferring various social services to tenants. So it will be easy to form those partnerships in that sector and provide tailored support to individual families and persons. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to encourage you to continue your discussions, your exchange of views during a coffee break. And just for a recap, I feel that our discussion demonstrated quite clearly what huge opportunities are offered for those joint project, social housing projects. I am confident that the legal potential that SRAs, social rental agencies, can tap into in terms of a large target group, in terms of developing those external business relations, in terms of setting the amount of a rent, or taking over responsibility for potential outstanding payments and covering them up. All of these opportunities are amazing, and I feel that this is a great moment in time for us to try to individualize this support, knowing various constraints, local constraints. We can develop those instruments of local housing policy in a more effective way. And also I'd like to use this opportunity to extend my thanks to Habitat for Humanity for the opportunity to facilitate this panel. And also my thanks go to the UN High Commissioner for Refugees for helping us to organize this meeting. Thank you very much.